Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Happiness Journey with Dr. Dan podcast, where every journey is worth living. My name is Dr. Dan, and I'm your host for today's episode. I'm a bilingual neuro-linguistic programming and cognitive behavior psychotherapist specializing in anger management issues, both court-appointed and private, marriage counseling using the EFT method, dissociative disorders, narcissistic personality disorders, depression, anxiety, dream analysis, and also provide life, business, and retirement coaching support. I provide individual one-on-one session in both French or English, and also do group settings. If you need any assistance, reach out to DMV Therapy and Coaching Services at 301-325-1550, and our website can be found at lifecoachdanamzalai.com. Today, I'm very excited to have for our fourth episode of season 15, a very special guest and author of Life of Love, a joyful guide, Self and Sensuality, Julie Hilsen. And just like every of my past episode, I will leave it up to the guests to properly introduce themselves, as no one can do a better job. Julie, the floor is yours.
Hello, and thank you so much for having me. Wow, you've had a lot of episodes, so I appreciate all the work that goes into that.
Thank you so
Uh,
much.
yeah, so I am first and foremost, I'm a spiritual being. I'm here on this planet to activate other people to realize their divinity. And I've done it through different modes. I am a licensed speech pathologist, I have a master's, I'm an author, and a podcaster. And my joy lately has been just sharing divinity and opening up people to the wonder that they are, that your life is a gift. I think as a society, we've lost track of that we're all wonderful beings. So that's what I'm doing lately. And I've been working with the angels. I'm a certified angel practitioner. It's just staying in the vibe of magic, Dan. It's just a great place to be, and I don't want to be anywhere else. So thanks for having me and letting me share.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here today. And I know that you're very busy with everything that you do. So let's talk more about first, what brought you to write the book, The Life of Love? Was it because of your own personal experience about what society is, how you've been dealing with society in general? What really pushed you to write it?
Oh my goodness. Well, it was a soul path for me. I was, I call it my zombie life. I wasn't happy. And if you looked at my life on paper, if you just looked through the window of my house, you'd say, oh, she has a wonderful life. But I was missing my uniqueness, my my core being wasn't being fulfilled because I was just following a template of what you're supposed to do to be happy, what makes other people happy. I was living in the reflection of everyone else. And I started just doing some soul searching and honestly some dark nights of the soul, and I did a lot of research and took a lot of master classes and read a ton of books and went to conferences, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I have something here." Like the way I can put it together is very approachable, and I was told by people, and I was encouraged to share how I share, and so my book is basically how I grew, and I synthesized a lot of things to help someone who's just interested in their spirituality, who just wants a little bit more. It gives a framework, and it also gives you the meaning or the means to ask for what you need, because that's the whole thing with this whole world that we live in. If you don't know what you want, if you don't know how to ask, nobody's gonna give it to you. You gotta figure out exactly what your best life means to you. So I have this guide and I say, let's go on a quest. Let's do this together. And I give people the tools to find out about their light and their spirit, to find out about how to take care of their body, how to take care of everything that's coming at you and protect yourself. And then also how to be in a dynamic relationship and have a great sustaining relationship that brings you joy and your partner joy, and your children, anyone you're in relationship with is what this book is about. So it's been a really great adventure to share it and just get feedback, because it's exciting to think that I have something that can help somebody, and that's what drives me, is just making this world a little bit better.
Mhm. Now, is it a little bit of an autobiography because of what you've experienced yourself, or you focus primarily on the tutorial aspect of what to ask the universe what you want, and you shall get? There's a lot of laws of attraction into it as well, or is it primarily taking action more than just having, like delusional like perspective of what life is?
Right, like, definitely I share my experiences, because I think a storyline is a great way for people to learn, but also I incorporated the universal laws, and Yeah, I don't say these are the universal laws, but they are woven into my book. So yes, the law of attraction, the law of openness to receive. There's so many wonderful universal laws that, it's a little daunting. So I just break it down into basic steps so that it's very approachable. But just being that vessel, creating this container that you're going to receive from the universe, that you're worthy, that you can, when you ask for it, you have to look for it too. So it's a great place to be. And I I just adore that the angels, they gave me messages when I was writing the book. They said, "Hey, put this in here." And it's funny because I'll read it and be like, "Oh yeah, the angels, that was the angels," like I can tell the parts where the angels were telling me what to write. And so the special part is that if somebody doesn't know the words to ask, I give them the words to ask. So everything I talk about, there's a devotion to ask for the highest good, to ask for your angels to show you the way. Because a lot of times we just don't even know the answers. We just have to be open to what there is to see, and just to know that they're trying to reach us, that they're there to help us. We just have to ask.
But again, it's hard to really believe unless if you have that faith that angels do exist and about religion, spirituality, and so on and so forth. But people just don't know how to reach out. So when you reach out to the universe and ask them for what you wish the most, is it like asking the angel for what you want? I mean, is there some differentiation between the angel and the universe?
Well, that's a universal law again, all is one. So it's whatever resonates with you. If you feel like, hey, I have a strong angel connection, I'm going to ask the angels. But in my book, you can ask for source, you can ask for God, you can ask for Jesus, whatever resonates with you, goddess, God. So whatever in your heart you feel supports you, that's what you ask for. It doesn't matter the name, it's the energy. And I think that that's a huge thing that people don't realize. We're biofields of energy. So whatever energy you are projecting is what you're going to get back. And if you come from a place of love and resource and saying, hey, I'm a divine being and I deserve to have support. Like that's a human right. And we don't realize it. We don't grow up and say, "Oh, you're a person, you're a divine being. You have the right to be happy and abundant." That's not something we tell our children every day, and they should know that, right? Like, so just the idea that you're an abundant divine being and everyone else is. So if you can come from that place in your heart and you're reflecting that in your biofield, that's what it's going to come back to you. So whatever you ask for, if it's from your pure heart and from goodness, then you're going to see that in what's coming back. And it's not eat, pray, love or anything like, visualize and it'll come to you. It's you be it, you believe it. But you're right. It takes a little bit of practice, and it takes a mindset shift, because if you don't think you're abundant, if you don't think you're special, you've got to figure out how to find that light.
That is so true. Now, we you must agree as well, Julie, that we live in a society that is very judgmental. We always try to live up to the Joneses, live up to our neighbors, depending on what kind of life they have. We always try to run on that treadmill of life. That faster we run, and faster that treadmill goes. And we tend to always also judge people who are lesser than us as being someone who's lazy, or someone who has not really put in the effort, put in the sacrifice to be able to be successful. So, do people who are more spiritual are less judgmental?
That's a great question. And absolutely. Because once you realize and you respect that everyone has their path, like you're not going to judge that person for not knowing what you know. You're going to send them love and compassion and say, "Hey, you're going to get there." And it's a big hurdle, because we do live in an ego state much of the time, and we do live in comparison to others. And I write about my book, like how to identify when you're in a fear-based state, when you're in competition, when you're feeling lack. These are all things, like when things are moving too fast and you don't feel like you have traction, you don't have your feet on the ground. These are signs that you're living in ego, that you're living in this place where there's nowhere to go when you're an ego. It's your body, your mind trying to protect yourself from danger. And the danger isn't there. That's an old paradigm that we have to run from the tigers, that we have to hoard our food. I mean, there's abundance, and anything that tells you that there's not is a fear-based platform, and it's trying to control you. So recognizing that fear, recognizing your ego is the first step. And then being compassionate and saying, oh, that's my ego, and I understand that's what it is. But if you can't have compassion for yourself and forgiveness for yourself, you're definitely going to judge other people, and you're going to be hard on them too. So, live in the mirror of your own judgments. Like, listen to your thoughts. If you're condemning your neighbor, you're also condemning yourself. There's no doubt about it. And so if you're in the environment and you notice somebody not being compassionate, and you notice somebody making choices that are from a lower vibration, then you can recognize that they're in a struggle phase, and then you're not going to judge them. You're going to say, hey, what can I do? And that's going to change the world. Because if you start judging your neighbor, you're just it's a cycle that's going to continue, because you're judging yourself. Because we're all here to ascend. We're all here to do better.
That is definitely a very good message here. But then we do receive a lot of contradictory messages all around us. You may heard this before. Well, there's no gray area to this. There's no gray area to that. It's either this or that. But then the concept of duality, which either black or white. And if we only think either black or white, then that limits the way that we process information around us. And now we encourage people to be able to think a little bit of the gray, to be able to kind of think in between and not being on either spectrum or either extreme or either the polar opposite of each other. So this contradictory information, Julie, that we get day in and day out, how can we change people's mindset so they could start thinking outside the box?
Well, we can fight the idea that we all have to know the answers. I think that that's a huge thing. Is like, well, if I don't know, if I'm not sure, then who am I? So if you can recognize in yourself that it's okay not to know and be honest, it has to start with the individual. We're not going to affect society until the individual changes or, has a different paradigm. So if you can accept that you don't know all the answers and live in the state of curiosity and joy, because right, because you pick a side, you pick your answer, and you're going to dig in, and then you're going to defend your opinion. And that's why in science, it's the people who are hobbyists, the people that bring freshness to the science, to business, the people that are, they're just in it because they love it. They're the ones that find the answers. It's not the people who study and get doctorates in subjects that come up with the breakthrough answers. It's the people who come with a fresh mind. So, it's we don't have to be so serious about everything all the time. Maybe just come to things with a little bit of curiosity and wonder, and then, acknowledge that things are happening we have no idea, and it's okay. Like, you're not a lesser person because you don't know all the answers.
But does it mean that if someone, like, I remembered one of the movie with Will Smith, the Pursuit of Happiness, where he said when he got interviewed, he said that if I don't know the answer, I will make sure to go find or if I don't know the answer of this question, I'll make sure to research it and find the answer. So do you think that people should just accept the fact that we don't need to know everything in life? We are allowed to be able to be vulnerable in that area. But doesn't that supposed to be able to push us to wanting to find that answer and to be able to get more informed, to be able to be more curious? So where's the thin line between both here?
I love the way you said that. It's okay. It's okay to not know the thin line. I mean, we don't have to. That's what I'm saying.
But then we're being judged for not knowing.
Let them judge. Who cares? They want to judge me for not knowing an answer. I just I adore this, because it is uncomfortable to be in that place to say, but how do you know when not to know? But as long as you're looking at things and doing your best and asking for the highest good, the best answer is going to come, and you don't have to put pressure on it. It'll just reveal itself. I mean, if you have the energy to go and research and find out more, that's great. But you don't have to. Like, that's your ego saying that you have to.
But this is where the pressure comes in, Julie, because there's so much expectation that is put on us by the people that surrounds us in life, in business, in personal, social, etc. So the fact is that we do not want to be perceived as someone that people cannot rely on due to the fact that we know absolutely nothing. So we need to be able to kind of bring that curious mind to be able to be more active and saying, you know what, we admit that we don't know the answer, but we will make damn sure that we'll figure it out. So that in itself allows other people to say, okay, you know what, he's human. He doesn't need to know about quantum mechanics or the cosmology or anything of that sort. But at the same time, let him discover, or her.
Right. And I think that comes back to the biofield. Like, if you're coming from a heart of caring and you're looking at the options and you're saying, this is important to me too, let's figure this out. That's so much better than picking an answer and then just going with it, right? Because then you can pivot. And that's what's been the last 3 years. Everyone's had to pivot so much,
Yes.
and there's new information coming all the time. So it's compassion for not everyone has every answer. Like, we have scientists who claim to be experts, and then we have other people showing that they might not know what's going on. So, I mean, don't waste your energy in digging into a side. Just be ready to take in the information and pivot. And when you're coming from your biofield of wanting to be supportive to your neighbor, of doing the best you can for yourself because you're a divine being, then the answers and the next step, it's going to be unveiled, and it's going to be perfect. But you can't put stress on it and make it more than it needs to be at the moment by projecting 5 steps ahead. Like, to me, we just need to go our next best step, and then these little steps will lead to a big picture, as long as you're centered in what's your goal, what your values are. It doesn't matter if you don't know what's going to happen 5 years from now. You just got to keep living today.
That's so true. But then, if we tackle the topic of what happened in the past 3 years with the pandemic and everyone being affected, but don't you think that that created even more distancing among people for those who didn't believe about the efficacy of the not the virus, but I would say the vaccine, and that if you're not vaccinated, people look at you in a different way. So that created more judgment, and it created a lot more people just looking at their neighbor, looking at the people that are not vaccinated, then they do not have the mask, as people that are not patriotic, and they are just there to contaminate as many people as possible. So what is your stance on that? I mean, do you feel that that created even more tension?
I think you can look at it that way, and then there's also another perspective, as there's things coming out every day that both sides had some of it right.
Okay.
And everybody's position turns out to be important. We were watching I don't know if you followed the basketball last night, the NCAA finals, but they were promoting some medication that if you were high risk, you should take this medication. And in the small text at the bottom was their efficacy for this medication was if you hadn't been vaccinated. And I was like, wow. So the pharmaceutical companies are recognizing that these medicines are working differently with the vaccinated versus the unvaccinated, which I'm just looking at this out of curiosity, because we went through a huge experiment, right? Like, there are people who signed up for something they had no idea what it was going to do to their body. And there's people that decided that they were going to let their bodies fight it naturally. And you know what? Both sides lived. You know what I mean? Every side had their reality, and some people perished with not getting the vaccine, and some people perished with the vaccine. Some people are paralyzed because they took the vaccine.
Sure.
We don't know the answers, but to me, you just keep an open mind and keep gathering your data, what comes into your field. And I think it the whole thing sort of illuminated um, your discernment. Everyone has to discern for themselves. And I do think it illuminated a lot of judgment. And you can look at it, and when you're judging someone and you're feeling judged, you feel you feel that, even if they don't say it.
Mhm.
And that's a low vibration, and nobody's going to heal, nobody's going to do better at a low vibration. So that's a huge sign to me that that's not the path.
But when you see that, for employers that actually forced every of their employee to take the vaccine, not knowing the side effects or the long-term side effects of it, and then after a while they just realize, oh no, we cannot force people and or change their mindset towards what the vaccine can do to them or make their own decision towards it. So that in itself created again a very, I would say, dictatorship kind of